Hey, good morning, guys. Back at the job site. We got a little bit of snow overnight, but it actually is a good thing because it's gonna clean off this surface, make it not so muddy. Our lift is able to get back here, no issues, no rutting. We're gonna go ahead and jump right on house wrapping this upper section up here, and then we're gonna try to whip out this wall steel, get it done as quick as possible because it's just so easy, and it'll be nice to get some color up here. And then we're gonna work our way around this back. So what we gotta do is obviously run our wrap, but I gotta trim this overhead door. We gotta get this house wrap cut up to size, and then we will get on this back wall and get it up before any wind gets too bad today. I think the worst of it's actually over. Last night it was really windy, but thankfully all of our house wraps stayed up. So I just put up this first piece of wall steel, and even though I want it to be perfectly plumb, what's more important to me at this point is that, remember when we put this first sheet on, we had to move it ahead 3 inches, and I told you 3 inches is about maximum for my corner trim detail to go around with a standard trim. So I need to make sure that rib is no more than 3 inches from that corner. So what I did was I went up to the top, made sure that it was perfectly 3 inches and no more before I screwed it all off, because and I've done this a many times, if you go to put the level on the rib, make sure it's plumb, even if you're just reading that level off just a hair down here, when you go up 12 feet in the air, if it's off just a little bit, you could be off 1/4 to a 1/2 inch up top. So even if I read that level perfect, what I think is perfect is not always perfect. We've already plumbed, squared, and put on the roof, which means now I'm not messing with these walls. It's more important to make sure the dimensions work. And what I'll do now is I'll put another sheet up, I'll level it again, and keep checking that, and then I'll run a 3-foot mark at the top of the wall and just go off of that, because once I get the first one set where I want it, then I'm just gonna go off of the dimension, keeping it perfectly spaced so that I end with my rib on the corner on the other end.
Did we level up this wall?
Yesterday.
Should probably check it again.
Why?
Because things happen. It was windy last night.
It was really windy. I would agree. And to be honest, that was my next step, was to get the 8-foot level out, check the wall, and make sure. I actually wasn't going to check the wall because the sheet was like pretty much perfectly where I wanted it. Maybe an 1/8 inch off or something, which, like I said, that could be the difference of reading the level versus putting it where it's supposed to be. So I'm still gonna grab the 8-foot level, see what it does. All right, because Greg said we better check. Let's just bust out this trusty 8-foot Stabila. And let's see, I don't know if that's gonna focus in or not, but I'd say we are pretty good. It's always good to double check, Greg. It's always good. Zach, be safe up there. So Greg's gonna run out this wainscot. We've got a window to frame it, or we've already framed in the window, but we got to trim it out, install it. We didn't want to open that up because of the wind, but now that I did ensure that this wall was perfectly plumb, Greg's wall is plumb, we checked that. Now we're good to start installing steel. All right, I just got that top marked off with a 3-foot spacing. So that way, now that my last sheet that I just installed is plumb and we're loving everything about it, I go ahead and I mark off my 3 foot so that now I can have a visual to make sure that my steel is exactly where I want it as I go down this wall. I don't need somebody to help me doing it. You can see we just wrapped up this wall. Still got a lot of screws to put in so it looks a little wavy maybe.
We caulked the bottom, right?
No, don't caulk the bottom.
That's what I thought.
Just the top and sides. 2020, man, it's the year of doing things better, Greg. 2020 is our vision. We'll get this window installed and then we can start on this end steel here. We got trims to do on the overhead door. That's probably what I'll work on once we get going here.
Oh man.
Can't really tell. You like it all, Greg? I should have picked up a roll of painter's tape.
We should be all right.
Well, we're gonna be out 2 hands on every piece.
We'll have to be.
We're not gonna John Wayne these windows. You know, like try to be hero and stuff and try to do it ourselves.
Being John Wayne. Huh?
What?
What's the matter with being John Wayne?
Oh, just hit a nail. That sucks. These are like little flashing tapes. It's like a very malleable, you can kind of get it around this corner. Make sure you push it in nice and get it sealed off. And with these windows, I'm gonna tape them as well. Even though we siliconed it in, I think I'm gonna tape them. I'm not a huge fan of this per se. So if you guys have some really good options for a good color matched window to use out here, by all means, drop it down below in the comments. I'd be all ears. Now you'll notice a couple things different about this window. One is that it's aluminum, so it's not our standard vinyl. And this is made by Plyco, the same one that makes our doors that we use. These guys were like born in the post frame industry. They make a ton of commercial products. This being one of them. What I like about this is I can get a color matched product, so it's going to match our burnished slate. It's really close. This is aluminum, this is steel. It's painted by a different person, but it's really close. But also this is a thermally broken window, which means that if there's cold on the outside, this aluminum gets cold and you're heating the inside, it's not going to have that transfer because it won't be connected. There's an actual gasket that goes around the entire frame and there is no metal to metal connection. They're about twice the money of our normal window, but I think they're pretty nice. And I just wanted to say, you know, this is the Martinez Micro, which maybe you guys have seen me use the Martinez Speed Square. What I wanted it for was cutting these trims. It's just a lot less to handle. I mean, look at the size difference on a small piece of trim, which means you have less chance of, you know, sliding it around and making any sort of, you know, scratch marks or something. I will say, Greg, this is the zip tape, flashing tape, by using the squeegee.
Yeah?
I thought it adhered
Better?
phenomenal. Yeah, I thought it was easier. It's easier to carry a squeegee in your pouch.
Got a roller that sticks 4 feet up in the air above you.
Yeah, the trims are so tight to the frame of these aluminum windows versus the vinyls. wish I had quad max.
No, for a second when I got out, I thought it was quad max, and I thought it was working a little bit harder than it should. But now that you mentioned that, it makes so much more sense.
One thing that's important about this detail with a J channel like this is you'll see I kind of dammed up with some good quad down here. So if water gets in between the window and the J channel and it works its way down, it has to work its way back out because there's nowhere for it to go. I'm not a fan of caulking this joint here. I think it looks trashy and you know it's going to fail over time. So I try to mechanically make sure things are flashed as good as possible. And so the whole saying, do your best, caulk the rest, that's kind of our mantra. I'm not a fan of using caulk unless you have to. Oh, that's a nice tight corner.
That is clean.
Yeah. That is one nice thing about the aluminum windows, man. All the metal joints just look funny. Alright, so we're going to change gears. You can kind of see up here, we've got that steel done on the front. We got this back steel done. And instead of going around this door, which requires me to house wrap, trim the whole door so that I can get the upper trim done, we're going to hold off on that because I try not to cover the building with house wrap until we know we're going to be putting steel on it pretty quickly, and I know we're not going to be doing any of that right away. So what we're going to do is we're going to start back on this corner and start working our way around to the porch. So we got everything pretty much ready down low to run house wrap on the lower side, and I think the only thing we got to do is this sun is really bright. We've got two windows right over here that are up above those lower windows that we got to frame in before we can run our upper house wrap. But for now, we've got our steel back here for this end wall, so that's our goal. We're going to try to make it across this end wall, and I think we should be able to do that no problem this afternoon. And maybe we'll get down this wall with some wainscot. We'll kind of see what happens. All right, so I'm cutting our garage door trim here. It's kind of like two standard pieces of trim put together. So a lot of times you'll see they've got a piece of trim that comes from the outside and then a piece of trim that comes from the inside of the door jamb. And it's a lot easier to do that. Like this is a big flat piece of trim. You can see that it gets all wavy and nasty if I flex it. Well, if you put a big flat piece of trim on a door opening and it's not perfect, then it will wave and look really bad. So if you make that into two pieces, and you have a little bit of wiggle room to kind of like make up that sloppy framing work. When we finally went to a one-piece door jamb trim and kind of got rid of those two pieces, it actually sped up our installation time because it's only one piece of trim I gotta cut, and it looks, I think it looks great. Customers like it, we like it, so I think it's a win-win. This is a pair 9-inch Melco seamers, benders, whatever. I don't know, I just call them benders. And it's nice because you can really clamp down on your material like this piece of trim here and give it a real nice tight clean bend. Kind of just massage that bend a little bit, get it to be a nice tight line. And this is when we put this trim on this door jamb, you'll see it's kind of a nice little tip and trick to make sure that your trims look flawless. Let's get the wainscot, let's get a line snap, we'll get that wainscot on, and I'm gonna have that trim on in 2 seconds, so by the time you get all that 2x gotta get put on. Boom. All right, thank you for that. All right, now we've got this trim on here, and you can see that bend over we did. Well, maybe you can see what the purpose is. So when I run this top piece over here, you won't be able to look up here and see any of the wood. It'll be a nice, color matched gap or crack. And I just think it's another little detail that, you could cut this out, but then you've got a potential for seeing in there in that crack. And it's always smart to overlap your pieces on top to the pieces down low. So you wouldn't want to cut this and then have your top piece bend underneath of it. You want this to be up under the top piece being tucked over, and that's just gonna help with water intrusion. So got both sides here. I just pulled my tape measure out and it's exactly 12 foot. So I'll go ahead and get this piece cut up. This is one of those important details where you'll see why, but I try to cut on this side of that rolled corner. You can see that the corner is not like a perfect 90. There's a little bit of a roll to it because obviously going through the roller, see how it still rolls over? Just see that slight bend over? What I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna take my little square here and I'm gonna go from the midpoint to just shy of this corner. You'll see. So just left a little bit there. Now we'll go ahead and put this piece of trim up on the door, and then I'll show you what that detail looks like. So here's a great example of what I was trying to talk about. So this piece of trim goes up, remember, all the way to the top of this. Then we notched out and bent it over so that it could be up underneath of this piece of trim, not allowing you to see any gap or crack here where these two trims come together. Nice clean cut. And then out here, when I made this cut here, remember I made it just shy of that cut line right here. And then I also left that little roll on this trim there, so I didn't cut on it, I cut on the bottom side of it. What it does is it forces this out a little and covers up the crack that is right behind here where this trim bends down. So hopefully that makes sense. Think like water, always overlap from top down. Do the best mechanical flash you can so you don't have to rely on caulk. Well, we were not able to finish this wall. Now, things always seem to take a little bit longer in the wintertime, I guess. I just didn't know how much we wanted to tackle here since we're not gonna be here tomorrow in case the wind comes up. Still had a pretty good day. We got this side wall done. We went around this end and we got a lot of wainscot done. You can see through here, that's all done. Got that front steel way up here. That is done. First window in. So not bad, pretty good first day on the steel on the sidewalls. This is where all the detail work will be. Next day we get here, we'll probably run this upper house wrap. We got 2 windows to frame up high. Then we'll run that house wrap, get all the windows installed, and we can run our steel around to the start of the porch. But anyway, we're gonna get out of here. It's getting dark, and thanks again for the support. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if it's something you're up to. Or up for, because we got a lot of great content coming out in 2020 and some good projects that I'm excited to share. So thanks again, and we'll see you later.